You won't believe how some of your favorite stars sabotage their own success. From Fatty Arbuckle's Wild Parties Gone Wrong to Mel Gibson's, interesting phone etiquette, we've got a smorgasbord of career-ending moves for you to choose from. Want to pull a Charlie Sheen and get fired from your hit TV show? Or maybe you're more of a Jane Fonda, looking to infuriate an entire nation. So here are the masters of self-sabotage who didn't just burn bridges, they nuked entire continents of opportunity. The rise and fall of Fatty Arbuckle. Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle was one of the biggest stars of the silent film era. He was born on March 24, 1887, in Smith Center, Kansas. By the early 1910s, he had become a beloved figure in comedy, known for his slapstick style and enormous size. By 1914, he had signed a contract with Keystone Studios, earning $3 a day. His success grew quickly, and by 1918, Paramount Pictures offered him an unprecedented $1 million contract, making him one of the highest-paid actors in Hollywood. In September 1921, Arbuckle's career came to a screeching halt. During a Labor Day weekend party at the St. Francis Hotel in San Francisco, Virginia Rapp, a 26-year-old actress, fell seriously ill and died a few days later. Rapp's friend Maud Delmont accused Arbuckle of assaulting her, leading to her death. The allegations sparked a media frenzy, with headlines branding him as a murderer. Despite the sensational nature of the case, the evidence was far from conclusive. Rapp's autopsy showed she died of a ruptured bladder, but there was no definitive proof linking Arbuckle to the injury. The case went to trial in November 1921. The first two trials ended in hung juries. In the third trial, held in March 1922, Arbuckle was acquitted, with the jury even issuing a formal apology, stating that a great injustice has been done. However, the damage to his career was irreparable. Although acquitted, the public and Hollywood had already turned their backs on him. In the years following the trials, Arbuckle struggled to revive his career. He directed films under the pseudonym William Goodrich, but never regained his former glory. On June 29, 1933, he died of a heart attack at age 46, just as he was beginning to return to acting with a new contract from Warner Brothers. The downfall of Charlie Chaplin. He was born on April 16, 1889, in London, and became a global icon with his character, the Tramp. By the 1920s, Charlie Chaplin was one of the most famous figures in the world, both admired for his comedic genius and respected as a filmmaker. However, his political views and personal controversies would later overshadow his success. Chaplin's political leanings began to draw attention during the 1930s. He was openly critical of capitalism and supported various leftist causes. His 1940 film, The Great Dictator, a satire of Adolf Hitler, was both a critical success and a source of controversy. Chaplin's outspoken nature during the McCarthy era, when anti-communist sentiment was at its peak, further intensified scrutiny of his beliefs. In 1947, Chaplin was called to testify before the House Un-American Activities Committee, HUAC, but refused to appear, declaring that he was not a communist, but a peacemonger. His refusal to align with American patriotism during this time led to growing hostility towards him. Matters worsened with his involvement in several personal scandals. His relationships with much younger women, particularly his marriage to 18-year-old Una O'Neill when he was 54, drew public criticism. Additionally, a paternity suit filed against him by actress Joan Barry, though ultimately disproven by blood tests, further damaged his reputation. The final blow came in 1952. Chaplin left the United States to attend the London premiere of his film Limelight. While he was abroad, U.S. Attorney General James P. McGranery revoked his re-entry permit, effectively exiling him. This action was a culmination of years of political pressure and public backlash. Chaplin chose not to fight the decision and settled in Switzerland, where he spent the rest of his life. His career, once illustrious, never fully recovered. While he continued to make films, including the 1957 A King in New York, his influence in Hollywood had waned. He returned to the U.S. only once more in 1972 to receive an honorary Academy Award, a moment of bittersweet recognition. The self-sabotage of Errol Flynn. Born June 20, 1909 in Tasmania, Australia, he epitomized the swashbuckling hero of the 1930s and 1940s, starring in classics like Captain Blood, 1935, and The Adventures of Robin Hood, 1938. Flynn became a symbol of Hollywood's golden age, but behind the scenes, his life was a whirlwind of controversy and scandal. Known for his excessive partying, womanizing, and heavy drinking, he earned the nickname "In Like Flynn," hinting at his scandalous reputation. His lifestyle caught up with him in 1942 when he was accused of statutory rape by two underage girls, Betty Hansen and Peggy Satterley. The trial, held in 1943, was a media sensation. Flynn's defense portrayed the accusers as opportunists, and he was ultimately acquitted. Despite the acquittal, Flynn's reputation never fully recovered. He continued to act but struggled with substance abuse and health issues, which began to affect his performances. The once charismatic star became increasingly unreliable on set, and his box office draw diminished. Studios began to see him as a liability rather than an asset. In the late 1940s, Flynn's career further declined as his erratic behavior escalated. His films during this period, such as The Adventures of Don Juan, 1948, failed to capture the magic of his earlier work. By the 1950s, he was reduced to taking roles in low-budget films, often overseas, far from the grandeur of his Hollywood heyday. Flynn's health deteriorated rapidly due to years of alcohol abuse. On October 14, 1959, at the age of 50, he died of a heart attack in Vancouver, Canada. The tragic spiral of Judy Garland. Born Frances Ethel Gum on June 10, 1922, in Grand Rapids, Minnesota, she was a child star who captivated audiences with her performance in The Wizard of Oz, 1939. Her portrayal of Dorothy in the song Over the Rainbow became iconic. Signed by MGM at age 13, she was subjected to intense pressure to maintain a specific image. Studio executives placed her on a strict regimen of diet pills and amphetamines to keep her weight down and her energy up, a practice that led to lifelong addiction issues. By the 1940s, despite her continued success in films like Meet Me in St. Louis, 1944, and Easter Parade, 1948, Garland's personal life was unraveling. Her addiction to pills and alcohol worsened, leading to erratic behavior and repeated hospitalizations. Her marriage to director Vincente Minnelli ended in divorce, further destabilizing her. In 1950, Garland's unreliability on set led MGM to terminate her contract. The decision was a severe blow, as she had been with the studio for nearly 15 years. Desperate to revive her career, she made a successful comeback with the 1954 film A Star is Born, but the triumph was short-lived. Her ongoing struggles with addiction, financial problems, and failed marriages continued to plague her. In the 1960s, Garland's health and career declined further. Her performances became increasingly erratic, and she was often unable to fulfill her commitments. Despite occasional successes, such as her 1961 concert at Carnegie Hall, she could not escape the destructive cycle of addiction. On June 22, 1969, Garland was found dead in her London home from an accidental barbiturate overdose. She was only 47 years old. Marlon Brando's battle with Hollywood. He was born on April 3, 1924 in Omaha, Nebraska, and revolutionized acting with his intense method-style performances. His roles in films like A Streetcar Named Desire, 1951, and On the Waterfront, 1954, earned him critical acclaim and cemented his status as one of the greatest actors of his generation. However, Brando's rebellious nature and controversial choices often put him at odds with Hollywood. By the 1960s, Marlon Brando's relationship with the industry had become strained. Known for his disdain for authority, he frequently clashed with directors and studio executives. His refusal to conform to Hollywood norms made him both a revered and reviled figure. His eccentric behavior on set, such as arriving late or refusing to memorize lines, led to his reputation as difficult to work with. In 1972, Brando delivered one of his most iconic performances as Vito Corleone in The Godfather. The role earned him an Academy Award, but instead of accepting it, he sent Native American activist Sachin Littlefeather to the ceremony in his place to protest Hollywood's portrayal of indigenous people. The stunt shocked the industry and angered many, further isolating Brando from mainstream Hollywood. Despite his undeniable talent, Brando's refusal to play by Hollywood's rules led to his marginalization. His career, once unparalleled, became sporadic, with long gaps between projects. Brando spent much of his later life in seclusion, emerging only occasionally for select roles. He passed away on July 1, 2004. The exile of Jane Fonda. Born on December 21, 1937 in New York City, Jane Fonda rose to prominence in the 1960s as a talented actress, winning critical acclaim for her roles in films like Barbarella, 1968, and They Shoot Horses, Don't They, 1969. However, her outspoken political activism, particularly during the Vietnam War, would lead to one of Hollywood's most significant blackballings. In 1972, Fonda traveled to North Vietnam in protest of the U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War. During her visit, she was photographed sitting on an anti-aircraft gun, an image that sparked outrage across the United States. The media dubbed her Hanoi Jane, and the backlash was immediate and intense. Many Americans saw her actions as a betrayal, and she became a symbol of anti-American sentiment. Fonda's activism went beyond Vietnam. She was also involved in the civil rights movement and supported feminist causes. While her activism earned her respect in some circles, it made her a target for others. In the entertainment industry, the fallout from her Vietnam visit was severe. Some studios and producers refused to work with her, fearing the negative publicity that came with her name. Despite the blackballing, Fonda continued to work, though the controversy followed her throughout the 1970s and 1980s. She attempted to repair her public image, expressing regret for the photograph and clarifying her stance on the war. It wasn't until the 1980s, with the release of her workout videos and the success of films like On Golden Pond, 1981, that Fonda began to regain favor in Hollywood. Even so, the Hanoi Jane label haunted her for decades. It was not until the later years of her career, with a renewed focus on acting and activism, that Fonda was fully able to rebuild her reputation. The controversy surrounding Mel Gibson. He was born on January 3, 1956 in Peekskill, New York, and became one of Hollywood's biggest stars in the 1980s and 1990s. With hits like Mad Max, 1979, and Lethal Weapon, 1987, he was both a box office draw and a respected actor. His transition to directing was equally successful, culminating in the Oscar-winning Braveheart, 1995. However, a series of public incidents would drastically alter his career trajectory. Gibson's troubles began in 2006 when he was arrested for driving under the influence in Malibu. During the arrest, he launched into an anti-Semitic tirade against the arresting officer, which was later leaked to the media. The incident sparked widespread condemnation. Hollywood, where many key figures are of Jewish descent, reacted harshly. His career began to unravel as studios distanced themselves from him. Projects were canceled, and his once sterling reputation took a severe hit. In 2010, Gibson's personal life came under scrutiny again when recordings of him making racist and misogynistic remarks during a phone call with his ex-girlfriend, Oksana Grigorieva, were released. The tapes caused another wave of public outrage, further isolating him from the industry. His agent dropped him, and many in Hollywood declared his career over. Despite his attempts to apologize and make amends, Gibson found himself blacklisted by much of the industry. Over the next several years, Gibson's career was in limbo. He took on fewer roles, often in smaller, independent films, far from the blockbuster hits that had once defined his career. His directorial return with Hacksaw Ridge, 2016, which received critical acclaim and several Oscar nominations, marked a tentative step toward redemption, the blacklisting of Sean Young. In Louisville, Kentucky, Sean Young emerged as a rising star in the 1980s, thanks to her roles in Blade Runner, 1982, and No Way Out, 1987. With her striking looks and talent, she seemed poised for a long and successful career. However, a series of public incidents and clashes with industry figures would lead to her being effectively blacklisted by Hollywood. Young's reputation began to suffer in the late 1980s when reports of difficult behavior on set started to surface. On the set of Wall Street, 1987, she clashed with director Oliver Stone and co-star Charlie Sheen. The tensions were so severe that her role was reduced during filming. Similar stories emerged from other productions, painting a picture of an actress who was challenging to work with. The most infamous incident occurred in 1989, during the casting process for Tim Burton's Batman. Desperate to secure the role of Catwoman, Young reportedly showed up unannounced at Warner Brothers in a homemade Catwoman costume, demanding to see Burton. The stunt was widely publicized and was seen by many as erratic and unprofessional. Burton ultimately cast Michelle Pfeiffer in the role, and Young's actions further damaged her standing in the industry. Young's career continued to decline throughout the 1990s as her behavior became increasingly erratic. She made headlines for various incidents, including filing a lawsuit against James Woods, claiming harassment, which was settled out of court. By the mid-1990s, her career had all but collapsed. Once a promising star, she was now viewed as a liability, with major studios and directors unwilling to work with her. Despite occasional attempts to revive her career, including appearances on reality TV and small roles in independent films, Young never regained her former status. The public fallout of Charlie Sheen. Born Carlos Irwin Estevez on September 3, 1965 in New York City, he was one of the highest-paid actors on television in the early 2000s, with roles in hit films like Platoon, 1986, and Wall Street, 1987. Sheen established himself as a versatile actor. However, it was his role as Charlie Harper in the sitcom 2.5 Men that made him a household name, earning him a staggering $1.8 million per episode by 2010. But Sheen's off-screen behavior would soon overshadow his professional success. In 2011, Sheen's life began to unravel publicly. After a series of hospitalizations and reports of drug and alcohol abuse, Sheen's erratic behavior escalated. He gave a series of bizarre interviews in which he coined phrases like tiger blood and winning, while making incendiary comments about 2.5 Men creator Chuck Lorre. These outbursts culminated in his firing from the show in March 2011, a shocking move considering its popularity and Sheen's central role. Sheen attempted to capitalize on the media frenzy by launching a one-man show titled My Violent Torpedo of Truth, Defeat is Not an Option. But the tour received mixed reviews and highlighted the erratic nature of his public persona. The impact on Sheen's career was immediate and severe. Hollywood, once eager to cast him in leading roles, largely turned its back. He was seen as too unpredictable and difficult to insure, making him a risky choice for any production. Sheen's public meltdown remains one of the most infamous in modern Hollywood history. His career, once marked by success and financial rewards, was severely damaged by his own actions. The blacklisting of Rose McGowan. She was a prominent actress in the late 1990s and early 2000s, best known for her roles in Scream, 1996, and the TV series Charmed, 1998 to 2006. However, her career took a drastic turn when she became one of the most vocal figures in the Me Too movement, which exposed the dark underbelly of Hollywood. In 2017, McGowan publicly accused Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein of raping her in 1997 at the Sundance Film Festival. Her accusation was one of the key moments that ignited the Me Too movement, leading to a wave of similar allegations against powerful men in the entertainment industry. McGowan's courage in coming forward was widely praised, but it also came at a significant personal and professional cost. As McGowan became more outspoken, she claimed that she had been blacklisted in Hollywood for years due to her refusal to stay silent about the abuse. She alleged that Weinstein had used his influence to ruin her career, leading to lost roles and a tarnished reputation. McGowan's activism made her a polarizing figure. While she was lauded by many for her bravery, others viewed her as too radical, and some questioned her methods. McGowan further accused Weinstein of offering her a $100,000 settlement to silence her, which she initially accepted, but later regretted. She also claimed that Weinstein's legal team worked to discredit her publicly, further damaging her career. The aftermath of her allegations saw McGowan largely sidelined in the entertainment industry. Offers for roles dwindled, and she found herself increasingly isolated. While she continued to act occasionally, her focus shifted more toward activism and writing, including the release of her memoir, Brave, 2018, which detailed her experiences in Hollywood and her fight against systemic abuse. The decline of Mickey Rourke. Born Philip Andre Rourke Jr. on September 16, 1952, in Schenectady, New York, he was once hailed as one of Hollywood's most promising stars, with breakout performances in films like Diner, 1982, and 9.5 Weeks, 1986. Mickey Rourke became known for his brooding intensity and undeniable charisma. However, a series of bad decisions and conflicts with industry figures led to his career decline. In the late 1980s, Rourke's behavior became increasingly erratic. He developed a reputation for being difficult to work with, often clashing with directors and co-stars. He turned down several major roles that could have cemented his status as a leading man, including parts in Platoon, 1986, and Rain Man, 1988. Instead, he chose projects that either failed to perform at the box office or were critically panned. Rourke's decision to leave acting in the early 1990s to pursue a career in professional boxing further alienated him from Hollywood. His foray into the ring was marked by physical injuries that altered his appearance and added to his already tumultuous reputation. By the mid-1990s, Rourke found himself largely sidelined by the industry that once embraced him. Despite his attempts to return to acting, Rourke struggled to regain his former status. He took roles in low-budget films and often found himself typecast as a tough, troubled figure, reflecting his real-life persona. It wasn't until 2008, with his performance in The Wrestler, that Rourke made a significant comeback, earning an Academy Award nomination and critical acclaim. However, the years of self-sabotage and industry blackballing had left their mark, and while Rourke regained some of his former glory, his career never fully recovered to its previous heights.